Go. Hello, what's up everybody? Happy New Year ပါအားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ YouTube channel ကနေမြန်မာအားလုံးပြန်ပြီးကြိုဆိုပါရစေဒီခေါက်ကျွန်တော်ဒီinterview ထားတဲ့အမှုပညာရှင်ကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမြန်မာ underground ကလည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးကျွန်တော်မြန်မာပြည်ကလည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးကျွန်တော်တို့Scotland မှာရှိတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာလူမျိုးမြန်မာနိုင်ငံသားကိုစီသူရေးပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်เนาะဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်မြန်မာ underground segment စလုပ်တဲ့ခါမှာကျွန်တော်အစရည်ချက်ကတော့မြန်မာမှာရှိတဲ့ underground လောကကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ 2BD underground ဒီ metal band တွေကကျွန်တော်တင်ငယ်ချင်းတွေband တခြား band အသီးတွေကို interview ဖို့အထိပဲကျွန်တော်စဉ်းစားထားဒါပေမဲ့ကျွန်တော် interview နဲ့ကျွန်တော်ကိုစီသူ A ကိုစာပို့ကြည့်သူနဲ့ကျွန်တော်နဲ့ဟိုဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲအရင်ကကျွန်တော်စာလို့ထပ်လန်းပို့တတ်တယ်အဲ့ပို့ရင်သူ reply လုပ်တယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်စမ်းကြည့်ချင်တာနဲ့ကျွန်တော်သူ့ကိုစာလမ်းပို့ပြီးတော့မှ interview ဖို့ကျွန်တော်ကမ်းလှမ်းကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာမထင်ထားဘဲနဲ့သူကလက်ခံတော့ကျွန်တော်သူ interview ဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ segment နဲ့တိုက်ရိုက်ကြည့်တော့တိတ်ပြီးမသက်ဆိုင်ပေမဲ့ကျွန်တော်ဒီမြန်မာပြည်ရဲ့ metal လောကကိုတက်နိုင်ဆုံးကျွန်တော်ဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲဒီ document လုပ်တာပေါ့နော်အဲဆိုတော့ကိုစီတူ A ရလဲသူ progressive metal instrumental တမဖြစ်တဲ့ခါမှာအဲဝင်နေပေါ့နော်အဲ့လိုဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲအတင်းမရမကကိုယ့်ရဲ့ segment တွေဆွဲထည့်လို့ဖြစ်နေဒါပေမဲ့ anyway ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်သူ interview ဖြစ်တယ်အစကတော့ကျွန်တော်ဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲသူနဲ့ကျွန်တော်နဲ့ interview အင်္ဂလိပ်လို interview တော့ပေါ့နော်သူမာစကားမရတော့ဘူးเนาะဆိုတော့အင်္ဂလိပ်လို interview ထားတာကိုကျွန်တော်အစကမြန်မာစာတန်းထိုးဖို့ကျွန်တော်ပြောတယ်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်စူးစမ်းကြည့်ရတော့ဘလို့မှအဆင်မပြေဘူးအရင်အချိန်ကုန်တယ်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်မြန်မာ typing တော့မရဘူးเนาะမြန်မာစာလုံးရေးတာလုံးဝအဆင်မပြေဘူးဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်လက် short ပြီးတော့ဒီတိုင်းပဲအင်္ဂလိပ်လို interview ထားတာပဲကျွန်တော်တင်ပေးမှဖြစ်တယ်ပေါ့เนาะဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တော့နားလဲတယ်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ယုံကြည်ပါတယ်အကုန်လုံးနားလဲမယ်လို့ကျွန်တော်ဘယ်သူဆိုတော့နားလဲတယ်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ယုံကြည်တယ်ဆိုတော့ကိုစီတူအေးအကြောင်းနည်းနည်းလေးပြောမှဆိုသူကကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာပြည်ကျွန်တော်ဟင်္ဒရာမွေးတယ်ပြီးတော့မှကျွန်တော်တို့88ရေးခင်းကြောင်းသူမိဘတွေကမြန်မာပြည်ကနေပြီးတော့မှကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီထွက်ပြေးရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့သူမိဘတွေကမှဒီရဆရာမဖြစ်တယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ဒီကျွန်တော်တို့88ကြောင်းဒီအာနာသိမ့်ပြီးနောက်ပိုင်းမှာသူတို့လည်းနိုင်ငံကြောင်းထွက်ပြေးရတယ်တင်းရှောင်ရတယ်သူတို့ရဲ့ဆရာဝန်ဒီဘဝကိုစွန့်ပြီးမှခက်ခဲနေပေါ့နော်တိုင်းတစ်ပါးမှာကြီးပြင်းရတယ်နေထိုင်ရတယ်ဆိုတော့ကိုစီတူအေးတို့ကဒီ interview ထဲမှာလည်းသူပြောပါတယ်เนาะသူဒီ South Africa မှာနေတယ်ပြီးတော့မှအဲဒီ UK ပြီးမှ College Scotland မှာနေတယ်ပေါ့เนาะဆိုတော့အခုချိန်မှာတော့သူအိမ်အောင်ကျသွားပြီပေါ့เนาะဆိုတော့သူရဲ့မျိုးသမီးကကျွန်တော်ကျွန်တော်တို့ Asian ပဲကျွန်တော် Hong Kong ကတရုတ်လူမျိုးတယောက်နဲ့မျိုးသမီးနဲ့အိမ်အောင်ကျဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုတော့ congratulation ပါကိုစီတူရဲ့မြန်မာလိုတော့သူနားလည်သေးတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့သူပြောတာလုံးဝအဆင်ပြေတော့ပေါ့เนาะဆိုတော့ဘာဖြစ်ဖြစ်ကျွန်တော်အတက်နိုင်ဆုံးကျွန်တော်တို့စူးစမ်းပြီးမှကျွန်တော်ကိုယ်တိုင်လည်းဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲစူးစမ်းပြီး interview ထားတယ်ပြီးတော့မှနားထောင်တဲ့သူတွေအားလုံးလည်းကျွန်တော်တစုံတစ်ခုပေါ့နော်သိချင်တဲ့အရာတွေကိုသိခွင့်ရမယ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်ကျင့်တတ်ပါတယ်လို့ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ English အပြောအမှားဘာညာရှိရဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ကြိုပြီးတော့မှတောင်းပန်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ပြန် enjoy the interview so cheers
Yo, what's up, man? Thank you so much for giving your time to meet with me and answering some of my questions.
No worries. Very happy to be here. Also, apologies to all the Burmese listeners. My Burmese is very bad. Pamalo,
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up. I moved away from. I was born in Hindada and I moved away. My parents moved away when I was 1 or 2 years old.
Oh wow, that's so early.
So I lived most of my life overseas. So I didn't really have a chance to learn it.
Oh wow.
And my parents didn't really push me to learn Burmese too much. So I mostly speak English.
Yeah. We come back to that question later on. And
okay.
I just take a courage to approach you because you're such a significant people for our especially for Myanmar, at least. I think we just straight away kick off because it will be a lot, it will be quite awkward because I'm a bit nervous to talk to you.
No worries.
So let's start with where you basically born and then how you grew up.
Yeah, so my mom and dad are they were both born in Yangon.
Okay.
my father's family. We were actually talking about this over the weekend. I went to my parents. We had a Dajan dinner. We had a Molo Yebo and stuff like that. So we doing some traditional Burmese things. My fiance she's Hong Kong Chinese, but she grew up in Scotland as well. So she's a similar sort of immigrant background to me. But yeah, so my dad said his family is originally from Mandalay. My mom's family is from Middle Burma. I think there might be some Shan. So I think ethnically I'm mostly Burma, maybe some Shan, maybe some more. I don't know. It's like a lot of people in Myanmar. We're very diverse people.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was born in Hindada. My father was a doctor, and this was basically 2 years after 88, and it wasn't my father and a lot of his friends were very active politically in Myanmar. So I remember he said one of his friends was basically told, "You need to leave." So he went to Thailand, and he left to South Africa after that. And then my dad soon left to South Africa. So I was born in Hindada, and then my family moved away because they just as a doctor it's easier to leave the country. So we left for South Africa, and I lived in South Africa for 10 years. And in South Africa, there's actually quite a large Burmese community around where we lived.
Oh, wow.
A lot of Burmese doctors, families of Burmese doctors. So I had a lot of Burmese friends, but a lot of us, we had the same thing where we're all Burmese, but we were growing up speaking English, going to English speaking schools, and some could speak Burmese better than others. And then around 2002, my family moved to the UK. A lot of my other friends and their families moved to Australia, Canada. So we kind of left South Africa and went our own different ways. And I've lived in Scotland in the UK for the last 21 years now, since 2002.
Oh,
and it's interesting you asked me the question, like, do I consider myself Burmese? It's one of the most difficult questions to answer because like, to my family, I'm Burmese. I grew up, my family's all from Burma. Like, it's only me, my mother, my brother, and my father who live in the UK. The rest of my family still lives mostly in Yangon, and there's a few people living outside. But when I'm with my family, I can say I'm Burmese. But in the UK, I say I live in Scotland. So it's a very difficult question because you always get like, oh, where are you from? And they say, oh, I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. And then some people say, oh, but where are you originally from? And then I explain, oh, I'm from Burma, Myanmar, and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely feel the first generation immigrant thing of living in the West, where obviously I speak English, I have a Scottish accent. So most people in the UK, they hear my accent and they think I'm Scottish. And there's lots of Asian people, like my fiance is the same. She's Hong Kong Chinese, but she has a strong Scottish accent as well, and so does a lot of her cousins. Wow. But if I go back to Myanmar, I stand out very much because I'm 180 centimeters tall. I have facial hair. My skin isn't very dark because I live in Scotland, and the hottest temperature in the year is 25 degrees, so it's not very hot here. But that's kind of like a short summary of my story. So I still very much consider myself, Myanmar Burmese. I don't speak the language, but I remember I was seeing my family. My family came over to Bangkok to meet my fiance because it's not safe to go back to Myanmar currently. And one of my aunties said, "Oh, it's such a shame you can't speak Burmese." And I said that my language is food. I love cooking Burmese food. Oh, wow. So over the weekend, my mom, she taught me how to make shang khao sui. I can make maji weta, jatahe. I can make all that kind of stuff. I love Burmese food. Ngapeto, lapeto. I love making all that kind of stuff. I haven't made mohinga yet, but I will make it at some point. But cooking is how I connect the most with Burmese culture, and I love sharing Burmese food with as many people as possible. But yeah, that's basically a summary of my story.
Wow, I felt so like goosebumps, man. I'm so happy to hear that. I really love. Anyway, but thanks so much for sharing, man. And what was your early kind of music encounter at your age? Do you recall anything?
Yeah, so it was after I moved to Scotland. So as part of basic school curriculum, they teach music for the high school. So we start at high school at age 12, and we do 6 years, 12 to 18. And first year they teach you music, and they teach you how to play on like the cheap keyboards, and then they also have guitars and bass guitars and other instruments. And then I first played guitar then, and then I think I just fell in love with it. It really resonated with me. So I was playing guitar. My parents, they bought me a very cheap, less than $100 guitar from just a big shop, and I kept playing it and playing it, and then they got me an electric guitar, and I think the rest is history. I just discovered new bands, and it was actually I went to Burma for the first time when I was 16. So I left Burma when I was 2, and I hadn't gone back until I was 16. So it was a really, really long time.
Yep.
And one of my cousins, he liked guitar music as well, and he showed me a pirate copy of G3 of it was Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and I think it was Yngwie Malmsteen. Yeah, it was the 96 G3, and then that blew my mind, and I learned about Dream Theater and Joe Satriani and Paul Gilbert, and I learned about all these other guitars. So it was actually going back to Burma and watching that sort of opened that for me. So yeah, I discovered Dream Theater, John Petrucci, progressive music, and then that's where I kind of went into. So yeah, I started playing when I was 12 in 2002, and I've been playing ever since. So it's been as pretty much as long as I've been in Scotland, I've been playing guitar. And yeah, that's been my sort of a rough explanation of my formative years as a musician.
Wow. And so do you take any kind of lesson from a particular person, or you just kind of self-taught after knowing the basics theory, or how do you progress the rest?
I never took lessons, so I was self-taught. I was very I think I was very self-motivated. I just wanted to keep playing it, and when I started playing guitar, that was when the internet started becoming more of a resource. So I would go to Ultimate Guitar and just Google tabs for songs, and I would learn, the do you remember the text tabs where people would write EADGB, and they have the 6 lines, and
yeah.
I learned like that.
Yes.
So I just look up songs that I liked, and I learned that. And yeah, no lessons. Everything I've done is self-taught. So I taught myself guitar, I taught myself theory, I taught myself how to mix and record and produce, and I've kind of taught myself how to run a music business by myself as well. I've organized most of the touring by myself. I had a booking agent who booked the shows, but like all the other logistics and stuff, I learned how to do myself. So basically, I just want to do everything by myself. I feel like it's just an opportunity to try and learn how to do new things, and because I have to do so many different things, I get to experience a lot of different things by just being a sort of independent musician.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot too. But do you listen to any music from Myanmar? Just
not at the moment, but I remember there was whenever when I was a kid, I was always surrounded by Burmese music, because every single Burmese person from my parents' generation loves karaoke.
Oh.
So we'd have the Dajan. Everybody would get together for New Year, and then they would sing Burmese karaoke. And I remember the Burmese New Year songs. My dad likes to show me like Burmese like traditional and classical music. So he showed me like Senpai music and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I'm aware of a lot of Burmese music, but I haven't really listened to too much of it. I mean, even to this day, I don't really listen to much English music. I listen to a lot of Korean and Japanese music, and I think the only Burmese band I heard, like I kind of knew the name one, was Iron Cross, I think.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, very very famous old rock band. But yeah, not really super like involved and listen to a lot of Burmese music these days. Yeah, it's like I said, it's just I don't have a lot of people recommending me music as well. So
Yeah.
there's that as well.
I got it. Yeah, because you're totally grew up in a total different community and background.
Mhm.
So you just mentioned about listening to Japanese and all these things. Then, just my question is, when did this anime thing came into your life? When did you starting to like really like the anime stuff and stuff? All of this.
Oh, uh, that's an interesting one. So I think when I was younger, I watched a few anime like Cowboy Bebop and Evangelion, and then as I grew, I think when I was in university, my brother recommended me this website called Crunchyroll, and I started watching a lot more anime there, and that's when I really got into it. And I don't think I focused on it too much, but I kind of anytime I watched something, I would always be hearing the music, and maybe it just stuck with me. And then with that in the back of my mind, I'd released, I'd released Cassini, Invent the Universe, those albums, and then I I don't know, I got a new piece of guitar equipment, the Axe Effects, and then I wanted to test it out. And then for some reason I tested out in the style of an opening song for an anime, and I don't know, people seem to like it. And then that just kind of expanded. And then one of my friends, Jack, I told him about this idea to make an anime EP, and he said to me, he said, Sithu, that is the worst idea you've ever had. You have to do it. And then it just kind of expanded from there. I think nobody ever told me stop. And nobody ever said it was a bad idea, or they said it was a bad idea, but I have to do it.
Oh,
And I just kept going with it. And I think it's a lot of fun. I think I kind of, because a lot of metal music can be quite dark.
yeah.
So I get to explore a much sort of fun and uplifting and sort of upbeat side of
Yeah.
sort of metal and progressive music. So I think I just had a lot of fun with it basically. And
Yeah.
I've done the 3 releases. I don't know if I'm going to do any other anime inspired releases since I've done, the Senpai trilogy. But it was a lot of fun, and I think I definitely got to explore like a different side of, metal music by doing that.
Wow, really interesting, man. So I was gonna say about that because I've been listening a lot of your music lately because I'm preparing myself to interview you as well. I did listen every time you release, but like really, to be honest, I don't really focusing a lot. But then reading your novel as well, so
Mhm.
I see some of your introduction, and it's really inspiring. And I felt that actually, yeah, when you did this anime kind of this Senpai trilogy, your music is like it became kind of like really unique in your own way because you kind of have that upbeat, but also you still add on a lot of progressive stuff, and
Mhm.
and it's so unique, and it's I don't know, but when I go to work, I like to listen the Senpai instead of the other
Mhm.
because it kind of like made me into a good mood, like just get my backpack and just go to the train station. So it's really nice, man. I love that.
That's good to hear.
I love that. And
Yeah, it's also like a clash of culture because I think that's been my entire life as well. Like I'm a Burmese guy who lived in South Africa and Scotland. Like if you look up Scotland on Wikipedia, you see that Scotland is 95 or 90% white. Is a very European white country. So like I look different to a lot of the people here. Um, but also just to say that people in Scotland are absolutely lovely. I've had people are always really nice and I think very very welcoming here, which has been a good thing as an immigrant. Like when my family and I have had a very good time in Scotland. But yeah, it's like again it's Japanese music, Burmese person living in Scotland. It's like it's just a big clash of culture, and I think that's another reason why I enjoy it. I get to explore all these different things as well.
just to go back to your the previous one that you mentioned, do you remember what was the first guitar you ever owned?
The first guitar I ever owned was a Encore acoustic guitar, and my parents still have it. It's in their house. I don't keep it here though because I have way too many other guitars. My guitars are all over there.
Yes.
There's 2 here and there's two in the living room, so I just have too many. I can't keep all of them. My first electric was a black Yamaha electric guitar. I think I still have that somewhere as well. But I don't have them with me at the moment. But I do have a lot of my old guitars. About a Fender Stratocaster that I got in 2006. So that guitar is almost 20 years old. 17-year-old guitar I have as well. So yeah, I still have a lot of the old instruments that I've had from way back when.
Yeah, I keep recognizing seeing two of the earliest guitar, like the Strat that you mentioned, and also the Ibanez 7-string, the RG.
Yeah, my brother has that Ibanez actually, and that Strat is just right there as well. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so nice. So before you start your first release, do you have any previous kind of activity in music? Like, do you kind of join any band, or is there any, before you like kind of start your own Sithu Aye thing? Do you have any, pre or entry or some, I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, like some previous experience with music. Yeah. So throughout high school, I was in a couple of bands with some of my friends. It was just kind of, my friends, one of them played bass, one of them played guitar, and we had various people that played drums. So I was in a couple of bands in high school. And one nice thing is that all the people that I was in bands with, I'm still very good friends with now. One of the people who played bass in one of the bands, he's one of my best friends, and he actually toured with me in America.
Oh, I saw him.
The other one of my best friends. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the person who told me that Senpai P was a bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he made me do it. And then one of my friends, Martin, he toured with me in Japan as well. So like I've actually been able to sort of live out the high school dream of some of my friends, and we played some music all around the world. Yeah, so I was in a couple of bands, and I sort of started the home recording. There's another friend of mine, Dave, who was a very good singer and guitarist, and he was also into home recording. So I guess like I started out experimenting with it, but it wasn't really like I didn't know what the recording software DAW was back then, so I didn't know like what Logic or Cubase or anything like that was. It was only until I went to university I discovered how to use that properly. But I basically dipped my toes into recording, and I was writing music, and I was sort of kind of learning what style I liked. So that's when I sort of really went down the progressive metal path as well. So and it was a bit of a contrast because I think the band's music that the bands I was in, the music wasn't very, it was more like alternative indie stuff, and I wanted to like play 7-string guitar, and I wanted to do all this kind of different stuff in it. So definitely like still really, really fun experiences. But I guess it's like when I still had a lot of stuff that I wanted to do musically, and I guess that's why I started. Like when I went to university, I really focused on writing my own music and doing what I wanted to do musically.
Wow, that's so cool, man. So you mentioned a bit, but what was your inspiration for you to kind of start writing and producing like kind of instrumental album, and to become an instrumental artist? Who are or what's inspired to do this path, basically to choose this path?
Yeah, okay. So one big thing that made me do instrumental music is that I'm a terrible singer. I can't sing. So I say that if I could sing, I would probably sing on my music. But I can't sing at all. And like I said before, I'm very like I want to do everything by myself. So the main thing I can do is I can play guitar. So instrumental music, like I heard a couple of instrumental albums when I was in high school. Like I heard the John Petrucci solo album, the Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, and then I discovered Guthrie Govan when I was in university. So I really like the idea of instrumental guitar. But then when I was in university, I was posting on a forum called 7string.org. And then on 7string.org, yeah, this is way back, I think 2010. On 7string.org, you had people like Misha Mansour from Periphery, you had Animals as Leaders, Keisha from Sky Harbor, Kemp Spanner, I think Monuments People, like everybody was posting there, and everybody was talking about recording music by yourself and like using Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer and all these kind of things. And that's when I really kind of really honed in on wanting to record music by myself. And then I got Sony Acid from a random CD that my cousin gave me from Burma with lots of pirated software. It's just you find these things everywhere in Yamaha. So I learned how to work with Sony Acid back then. And then I was trying out different plugins like Guitar Rig and discovering different plugins. And there was an album on 7-string called Cosmogenesis by an artist called Polish artist called Gru, and then that was like the thing that made me think, okay, I really want to record my own album of like spacey music, because I was still at university studying physics. And then that first idea became Cassini, which I did the next year in 2011. And that forum was really cool because there's a lot of really cool people around there. Like I met Pliny on those forums as well, and I'm still friends with them to this day. So lots of cool people, lots of cool experiences, and like everybody was very friendly. Like I would record something and I would post it, and I would ask for some feedback, and a lot of people would give me very helpful feedback and advice on how to improve the mix and make it better. So that was definitely the thing that got me into home recording. And then because I was still a student, I had no job, no money, so I was doing as much as I could with very little. I still had the same 2 guitars I had from when I was in high school, and I basically kept using that until I finished university and got a job. So it was really fun, because I think when you are limited by your equipment, you get creative. You really maximize what you can get out of limited equipment.
Wow.
So I learned a lot back then, and I think that really helped me for the future when I actually got my hands on better equipment, better recording software. So yeah, I'm just thinking about it. It was really challenging, but it was a lot of fun, and I think I really helped me grow as a music producer as well.
Wow, that's so inspiring, man. I heard about that a lot from the different artists, and if I'm not mistaken, that forum was actually started by Andy Snip, right? Something like that.
There was also the Andy. So the Andy Sneap forum was there was another forum that was the Andy Sneap forum as well. So there was 7-string and the Andy Sneap one.
Okay.
Yeah, I never really posted much on the Andy Sneap one because I don't know what's a nice way to put it. I think the Andy Sneap one had a lot of boomer musicians who were very like, if you're not recording with a real amp and a real studio, you're not doing it right.
Yes.
A lot of the people on 7-string were very open to new technology. A lot of people were very open to, recording everything on a computer, using plugins, using modelers. It was a lot more. It felt like nobody was telling. Like it felt like there was no rules on that forum. Like people were just use whatever you can to make it sound good. Whereas I felt like whenever I posted on Andy Sneap, it was very people judged you if you didn't use the right stuff. And that wasn't the kind of environment that I was looking for.
Wow.
And especially when you record progressive metal and progressive music in general, you don't want to be told what the limitations are. You want to be told what is a new thing to explore, what are the rules you can bend and what are the rules you can break. So I definitely vibed a lot better with the 7-string crowd, and it was just they were just more welcoming and friendly in general.
Thanks for sharing, man. That was such an inspiring the things that you just quoted. I'm sure it will encourage a lot of young people, even for myself. Man.
Yeah.
And so basically, you met like people like Pliny, Aaron Marshall, and then kind of David, Jacob, all of these people. Mm-hmm. Where did you meet
so
them?
Many names,
yeah. Where do you guys meet on that forum, or how the friendship thing happened? And also, very interesting thing that I just catch back from your interview with Aaron on Ola England channel, that you guys are like kind of one whole same batch, like coming out from the school. So that kind of group, and I'm so like fascinated to see you together with them as well. And what did all of these things start the friendship and doing all this together? Can you explain a little bit more?
I mean, I honestly feel like it was just one big coincidence. Like a lot of people, I think they saw the same opportunities that I did. Like it was a new way of making music. It was a way that allowed you to be independent from labels and recording studios. You could do things, you could take more ownership of music. And I think all of us kind of were part of that first wave where we kind of took advantage of these new tools and methods of creating music. And then just by the fact that we were doing the same things, I think we just got in touch. And it was back in the days where Facebook still had organic reach. So I discovered a lot of acts and bands, and I think it was just as simple as you just send people a message or a post on the forum, or send them a Facebook message, and that's how we got in touch. And that's how David and Jakob featured on. David was on Invent the Universe. Aaron was on was on Pulse. I think was the first thing that he was on. Like I got these guys involved. Jakob was on the split with Pliny. Pliny was like we just talked to each other by virtue of us doing the same thing and just liking each other's music. And one really amazing thing about that group of people is nobody was competitive. Like nobody ever saw it as like you are a potential rival. Everybody was super nice and encouraging. And when Pliny got started getting very successful, like I don't think anybody saw that as oh my God, I'm so jealous of Pliny. I think everybody was thinking, if he can do that, then we can do that too. He's basically paving the way and making this music more open and accessible to more people. So yeah, I think it was just a bunch of people doing the same thing, right place, same time. And I'm just thinking now, like that was over 10 years ago, but like none of us are like I think all of us are now in our like early 30s. I think Pliny's probably 30 as well. I think Aaron and David are the same age as me. Jakob's probably late 20s, early 30s. So it doesn't even feel that long ago, but I still feel like all of us have quite a lot to give as well. And I feel like everybody's kind of discovered what their niche is, what their sound is. I'm like, I'm trying to do something different as well. Like we're trying to make more jazz inspired music now. But I think it was just like a really cool thing where lots of like-minded people were in the right place, the same place at the right time.
Yeah, I can see that a lot of that, what do you call it? That's kind of like no competitive each other and really supportive, and you guys really come together, and it's really a nice community just by seeing how you guys support each other and featuring into each other project. And it's so nice, and there's no drama, and that's so cool to see that. Like it doesn't matter wherever you guys are going in.
I feel like with those guys, it just feels impossible to have any kind of drama with them. They're all really nice. Yeah. Like I've been on tour with Aaron, and like when you share a bus with on a van with somebody for 3 weeks, that's usually when like people can get into arguments. But I mean, touring with Aaron was really easy. Like his band was really nice. He was really chill. I've not toured with Pliny or David or Jakob, but I mean, I saw Pliny very recently. He was in Glasgow touring. And Jakob was there. I didn't get a chance to speak to them because I had to go home early. But I mean, like they're all doing great and all really nice people. I spoke to Jakob a lot when I was in when I was at NAMM in LA in 2019. I've spoken to David before. Like all just lovely people, and I think that really, really. I don't know. I just feel lucky in general because everybody was so nice as well. So just the whole experience of making music at the same time with these people with these people was amazing.
I mean, I'm kind of so jealous, but I don't think I'll be there. So I saw some of your videos about making your album writing and stuff like that. But can you please share us how do you kind of start writing and producing your album? Like for instance, to your first ever album, Cassini? How did that happen? For example, like from writing to producing and the whole process. Kind of, I know it's a lot of things to cover, but do you like? Is there anything that you would like to like particularly mention the way you kind of lay out or map out your workflow?
Okay. Cassini is an interesting one because I think Cassini was a bit more of a mishmash because I was still doing a lot of stuff beforehand, like trying to figure out how to get the mix right and stuff like that. But I think in general, I like working with concepts. As like you've got the Cassini concept, invent the universe, the Senpai, set course for Andromeda. Like I like working with concepts, and basically what I would normally do is I would create a concept. So for example, let's use invent the universe. We have the stages in the formation of the universe, and I use each song as each aspect in the creation of the universe, and I use that as a frame for the song within the concept. So like I start out at the top and I kind of work my way down. And then so for instance, I had Grand Unification after the intro song for Invent the Universe. So Invent the Universe is the intro song, and Grand Unification is going to be like the big sort of introduction song to the album. So that gives me a conceptual idea of how I want to write the music and what vibe and feel I want for the song. So I really, really like using that as a tool for as a starting point for a tool to get the vibe of each song. And I think I still like using that idea. Sometimes like I have less of a concept, so I kind of I'm a bit more free flow, but generally speaking, I like the idea of working with that concept. So, and you can see that with a lot of the things I've done in the past. In terms of the actual writing itself, I usually do a lot of work in between albums to come up with a template file for my DAW. So I don't have to like do the drums and I don't have to do the guitar tone. Like everything is already set, so I can just pick up a guitar and play, or I can compose some strings or compose some drums. I can work however I want. I can do guitar first. I can do chords first. I can do lead. I can do melody first. I basically can approach it any way I want. And then depending on what I start with, I will just go from there. And I like to work from the beginning of the song to the end. I don't usually mix up sections. I like working at the songs in order as well. And I don't like scrapping songs. So generally speaking, if I can't get a song to work, I will leave it until I can come back to it and make it work as well. So there are a few different ways I get started, but generally speaking, once I do get started, I will go in order and I'll write songs from beginning to end. And that's why you have a lot of songs that don't have, how traditionally songs will have like a verse and a chorus and then a verse and a chorus. Like a lot of my songs don't follow that structure at all.
Wow.
And I think that's just another consequence from the way I write as well. So that's like a broad look at how I write music. But in terms of like the specifics, I think it's varied from album to album. And I'd like to think that my mixes have gotten better with every single album. So I've learned things from the previous album and I've put that into my workflow as well. I think a big game changer is when I switched from Sony Acid to Studio One. So I use Studio One as my DAW, and that's made my life a lot easier as well. It's improved my workflow a lot. But in general, like the broad strokes of how I write are about the same.
Thanks for sharing. So when you mix and master, you still use the Persona Studio software?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
And I have a bunch of different plugins that I use. It's a combination of Stillwell audio plugins, FabFilter plugins, and Studio One plugins as well. So for mixing and mastering, I tend to use those plugins. For drums, I'm using GGD, Invasion. For guitar, I've been using my Axe-Fx, although at the moment I actually have a Fender Blues Junior in my wardrobe with a SM57 on it. So I'm actually recording with pedals and an amp for the new album I'm doing. So
Oh wow.
that's been a complete switch up to my workflow, but it's like doing new things is obviously a challenge, so it's very nice to do that. But yeah, so those are some of the main plugins I use. I use Spitfire Audio Albion 1 for strings, Spectrasonics Keepscape for piano. There's a keyboard over there, and Spectrasonics Omnisphere for synth. So those are the current plugins I'm using. I've used various plugins as I've went along, but I think the main issue is that when you're starting out as a musician, you have no money, and all these plugins cost a lot of money. So I've had to wait, literally 10 years since I've started being a musician to actually get these plugins and stuff, because it's very hard to justify, spending $500 on a plugin when that's like you have to eat. So now I've actually got my hands on all of these plugins, and my workflow is really, really nice. But there are definitely alternatives to these plugins that don't cost as much or are free, and I've used a lot of that in the past as well. So yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I got one of the question from a friend. Actually, he's a musician actively involved still in Myanmar. His name is called Kutuya. He's from the band called Favor 109. So he was asking me about
Favor 109, okay.
Yeah, so he was really fascinating about your chord when you write music, your chord choices, the way you progress all the chords and formatting. And he wanted to ask you, how do you approach all those different chords when you write music? And then the second question he would like to know was, which area so when you start learning guitar, what do you really focusing a lot in? Like, for example, do you learn a lot of kind of shredding, or do you learn a lot of ripping, or just what yeah, those two questions.
Yeah. So I'll start with the second question, just because I think that's a bit easier to answer. So when I started, I was learning mostly riffs, I think. And I was, learning like Metallica, Linkin Park, Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff. I was learning a lot of that stuff. And I think I only learned like the solo-y shreddy stuff was because from the Red Hot Chili Peppers there was a guitarist, John Frusciante, and from John Frusciante I got to Jimi Hendrix. And that's when I learned a lot more about the solo-y stuff. And then from Jimi Hendrix, like I said before, I discovered G3 and that whole shred world. Nowadays I'm very, very quite focused on harmony. When I discovered Jacob Collier and a lot of jazz and jazz fusion music, that like really opened my mind to new usage of chords. In terms of my own writing, I like basically I'm not using any kind of advanced harmony. I'm using diatonic harmony, just modes in the major scale stuff. The thing I just like to do is I like using a lot of seventh, minor, and major seventh chords and minor and major ninth chords, and trying to incorporate that into a metal context. So in like normally in metal, you'd probably just use like a basic power chord or just a major or minor chord. And what I like to do is I like to add extensions to those chords, make them, add a 9, add a 7. And by adding a 7, you change the feel of a chord by quite a lot. By adding the 7 and the 9, you change it even further. So a lot of my chord usage was basically experimenting around these extensions to the chord and seeing how it changed the vibe. And I think that's the main thing, is I'm not focused so much on the chord. I'm focused on the feeling and the vibe that the chords are creating, and the combinations of chord. What is the feeling? So you can really tell, like, if you play an E minor chord, if you play an E minor 7 chord, if you play an E minor 9 chord, those two chords are still just E minors. They're still an E and a G and a B. But if you add, the D, make it E minor 7, it changes the feel of the chord. If you add an F sharp on top, then it makes it E minor 9. It changes it even more. And then you can start to explore different chord extensions. And you can add a you can add the C sharp as well to give it even more color, that kind of thing. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm trying to go beyond the sevens and the nines, and I'm trying to work a lot more with jazz harmony and key changes. So what's nice for me is because I've already used to working with sevens and nines, what I'm learning now feels more like an extension of what I already know, as opposed to learning something completely new. But yeah, in terms of in that first question, I think yeah, my approach was just to add the sevens and the nines, and I think more generally, just don't be afraid to use non-metal chords, if that makes sense, in a metal context. Like you can, because you can make anything work. Just slap a bunch of distortion on it and put it together, you know. But like I think just don't be afraid to experiment with different chord voicings and different harmony, because I think as long as it's what you want to do, you can make it work with your music.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. What a wisdom there. Can you please share us what was your earliest gear, especially to record the Cassini, in terms of your guitars and also your effects and all the others like bass, drums, and what are
so Cassini was still my high school guitar. So Fender Stratocaster was a 6-string. 7-string was my Ibanez RG 1527. I didn't have a bass guitar, so I borrowed my brother's bass guitar. He had a Yamaha. My interface was M Audio. I can't even remember. M Audio. It was 2 inputs, like very, very basic, very, very cheap. And I recorded it into Sony Acid. And then for guitars, I was using a free plugin called Legion. It was completely free. You could just download it, and it was the Distort plugin. For clean and bass, I use Guitar Rig. So it was sort of as basic as you can get. These are the kind of plugins I use. So compared to what I use now, it seems very basic, but I think you can still make the music you want with these kind of plugins. Like I think it is just what it's just the only thing that matters is how much time and effort you're willing to put in to make it sound the way you want, because they are limited, but you can work around things, and you can just with time and effort, you can really get these plugins sounding good. And in a way, they had like a unique sound that like kind of went away when I switched to the Axe effects. But yeah, those are the plugins I use in those guitars, and I used those same guitars until I think Senpai was the first EP that I used the mayonnaise guitar on. So yeah, I was pretty much using the same kind of gear for a very long time because it's what worked for me. And you know, I was still a university student for a lot of it as well, so I wasn't getting expensive new gear. So yeah, that was the gear I used for Cassini until what was it? Pulse. Yeah, Pulse. I have all my releases up there. My fiance had the idea to put them up on the wall. Nice. So yeah, Pulse, and then after Pulse, I switched to the Axe FX and the mayonnaise guitars.
Wow, thanks for sharing. You looking at your journey. Actually, you're such an inspiration for like people like me. You know, like kind of your passion and how much you wanted to do it. That's all matter. You know, what you have, the flashy thing will come next. You know, so that's
exactly.
It's really amazing, man. I really love it, and you're such an inspiration to us.
Yeah. I just want to say on that topic as well. I think it's something that my family definitely taught me, because you know my father and mother, they grew up in Yangon, and you know unfortunately, because of successive awful governments, Burmese people have never had the prosperity that they deserve.
Yeah,
you know, because Myanmar, Burma was looking to be one of the most successful countries in Southeast Asia after World War II, and unfortunately, you know, the General Ne Win's military dictatorship ruined the country essentially.
Yeah.
So Burmese people were very limited, but because of the limitations, they have to find new ways to do things.
Yeah.
So ever since I was a kid, my father's always been saying, you know, you should learn to do things by yourself. He's a very DIY person. He, you know, instead of calling a craftsman or or a mechanic, you should learn to fix things yourself. And I think his attitude passed on to me with music. Like, instead of paying someone to record my music, I should learn how to do this by myself. Um I should use what limited resources I have to make the best thing I can do. And in many ways, this is it's quite a Burmese trait. I feel like we're very, you know, resourceful people who try to get the most out of very limited resources. So definitely something that was passed on down to me by my family and my father.
Wow, yeah, man, that's so amazing. And also that especially people from our background, you know, Myanmar people could easily think that, oh yeah, you're from UK, you could, you know, you might have all these flashy big stuff to start off, but you are like totally opposite of that. And that's, I think this is so inspiring for, I think, everyone who would like to do music. You know, your passion and the love for music is the most matter. Yeah, so that's so nice.
Yeah.
By the way, can you share us about your love for like bass, piano, and all the string stuff? Do you pick up by yourself, or do you kind of, where did that
yeah, so I learned bass basically because I wanted bass in my recordings, in my music, because there's no bass plugins that did it well. So I learned a bit of bass myself. I'm still learning. I'm doing a lot more. Like, I used a pick for my metal releases, but for my new release, I'm learning. I'm doing it all fingerstyle and slap, so I'm not a very good fingerstyle bassist. So I'm still learning that as well. And there's a stereotype about Asian parents, that they make you learn musical instruments, and my parents were the opposite. They let me play guitar, but there was a small part of me that wishes my parents forced me to play piano, because now in my 30s I can't really play it. I'm learning very, very slowly how to play it. So I kind of wish they made me play piano when I was younger, but that's just like a bit of a joke. But yeah, so I have less time than I had when I was younger, but because you know, you get older, you have more responsibilities, but I'm still trying my best to learn piano and bass and improve the piano and bass that I've incorporated into my newer releases as well.
Yeah. There doesn't really sound like you doing, because when I listen to your album, it's so kind of together with your guitar skill, you know, they just go back to back. And I love hearing a lot of bass on your guitar album. Actually, I was never expecting to hear so much bass in your sound, but it was so good to hearing. And I noticed a lot of like your bass tone are like way modern before, you know. For example, like the bass tone in the Kasene are actually, it's considered 10 years, but your bass tone back then, it's very relevant to today. It's so cool to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I think bass is really, really important. Like, without bass guitar, you have, because to me, harmony in music is very important. The harmony of the chords, and without the bass, you don't have a chord. Because you know, if you play a chord on guitar, that can become any chord depending on what the bass note is. So the bass is really, really important in defining and setting the harmony. So yeah, it's always been very important to me. I like having the bass louder in the mix as well. Wow. So yeah, it's always been a big thing for me.
Until your latest release, all your album, so you did all the music instruments, or do you like kind of, apart from like kind of Bellini and Aaron, they step into filling, but for example like bass, drum, do you ever get a chance to bring in your friends to really record live drum and bass stuff like that? Have you done that before?
I haven't, no. I think it's just I've never felt the need. I think one of the reasons is because I feel like I can still do more with programming. Like on Senpai 3, for instance, there was, you know, I did drum solos, and I was programming these things, I was programming piano solos. So maybe if I hit a point where I feel like I can't improve anymore, like there's nothing else I can get from my own programming, then maybe that's when I'll reach out to my friends to do, you know, live drums and stuff like that. But until I reach that point, I think I'm gonna keep trying to get as much as I can out of programming piano and programming drums, because I feel like I still have a lot of control over it and I can make it go in whatever direction I want. But yeah, if it ever gets to the point where I'm like, I just, this doesn't sound good anymore, I can't do it anymore, then that's when I'll reach out to other people.
And you've been so long this journey by yourself, like self-sustaining yourself, or just doing everything. But if you get a chance, like kind of like one big label's approach to you to kind of produce your music, will you be interesting to work with them, or you are just totally new to the labels?
It ultimately, it just depends on like, it doesn't matter if it's a big or small label. I think it just depends on the kind of deal they can offer. A lot of labels will want, a large percentage. A lot of labels will offer you, they give you money to record your album, and then they come back, and then, you have to pay them that money back. Some of them want to have, the copyright to your music. So I think it just depends on the type of deal. I think ultimately, if a label approaches me, it's just about what can they offer me that I'm not doing by myself already, and is it the best decision for me musically, and also just for my career? Because sometimes you sign to the wrong label or sign to the wrong management, and then they just kind of take over your career in a negative way. I think it just is just depending on the deal. But I mean, a lot of people that you mentioned previously, like, your Aaron Marshalls, Davids, Jakob Pliny, all of them are not on labels, because no label has to this day really offered us something that is worth it for us.
Yeah.
That they make a lot of, they can make as many promises as you want, but like, you need to see something where there's real evidence that they can grow. And if they're going to take a percentage of your music sales, then they need to show that they are worth that percentage. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it just depends on the deal, but yeah. no deal has appeared in front of me that makes me think, that's maybe really think about it.
Wow. Okay. But I'm sure that there are a few labels has already approached you to kind of offer you with their deal, so called.
Uh, Surprisingly not, actually. I think more people that want to work with me are, like the string company, the Dario wanted to work with me. I think it's more products, because it's a lot more clear that it's beneficial for both parties.
Yes.
So for the gear companies, it's like every single gear company I work with, like, it's not just like they give you stuff, like you have to give them stuff. It's a business relationship. So it's a lot more like straightforward what the benefits for both parties are. But for a label, like I said, if a label wants to take 40-50% of your music sales, then they have to really prove to me that that this deal is really worth it. What I've also found is that, like, I think once you say no to the first couple of deals, like way back, I think people just kind of stop approaching you. I think the labels maybe know that this person is not interested. Yes. And in many ways, at the size of artist I am, it's not worth it for me to sign to a label, and it's not really worth the labels to sign me. And like I said, the ways that independent musicians can make money, like it's really simple nowadays. Like you can get, you can go to DistroKid and you can pay $25 a year, and they will just push your music to iTunes, Spotify, all the stores, for $25 a year. It's like a label can't compete with that, So self-distribution is always an option. Then you have Bandcamp and all these other places. So in many ways, the job of a label has to become more than just distributing music. Like, labels need to evolve, because they don't have a monopoly on distributing music anymore, and they're no longer the gatekeepers, because people can go to Spotify and they can listen to whatever music they want, and the algorithm will recommend them. If you listen to this band, the algorithm will recommend you 5 more bands that are like this band. So if if they want to be relevant for smaller artists, they need to understand what small artists need and want, and if it's worth it for them as well, because it might just not be worth it. There might not be any money for them as well. So I just think that it's just not at the point where it's not a mutually beneficial business relationship. Whereas, like I said, my dealings with the gear companies, it's very clear it's beneficial for both.
That's a lot of knowledge for us, because we have actually no idea how this thing works. Can you please share us about how this like mayonnaise, especially, that's the biggest. Where did that start? That's like to become a mayonnaise artist and signatures, all this.
I mean, if you, it's the honest answer is that I emailed them, and then they emailed me back and asked if they wanted to work. Like, it's like I emailed mayonnaise, and then they got back to me and said that they can give me a discount on the guitars if I, promote them. Dario, they got in touch with me. I got in touch with Jim Dunlop. I can't remember who got in touch with who for Focusrite. But it's just, like you get in touch with them, and if they think that you can promote their brand, they'll get back to you. And I think the main thing is, like, because we live in the sort of internet social media age,
yes,
they do want to see that you have a social media following. They want to see that you can make your own content. I think that's a big thing. Like, Dario asked me to promote some strings, and then I made a video of me changing strings and playing a song, and they really, really liked that.
Yes.
So they like it that you can make your own content. But at the end of the day, like, they're trying to sell products.
Yes.
And as a person who is representing their brand, you're helping them to sell their products. So
yes,
it's like, a lot of people like to think that the endorsements are, you just get a bunch of free stuff from them, but they have to, like I said before, it's a business relationship, and they have to see some kind of benefit from it. But the reality is that most of my deals have come from just emailing and then getting in touch with people. And then what normally happens is that it's less about the product itself and more about the people at the companies, so that the artist representatives and stuff are usually, very nice people, and you meet them and you go out for food with them and that kind of thing. It's just it's almost like just like a regular work relationship in many ways. So that's the boring reality of it. There's no secret. A lot of another thing as well that I find is that a lot of musicians like to keep up the music industry is very opaque. Like, people like to hide information to regular people.
Yes.
But I don't really see any reason to. It's just an industry. It's just a business like anything else. Like, it's if you saw somebody working at a office for mayonnaise and Dario, it's not going to be that much different from people who work at an office at a regular thing. It's just the product is different. So one thing I do when I give these interviews is I want to be open about these about the music industry, and be transparent, and like just tell people that it's just people trying to sell what they think are good products. There's no secret to it. And if a brand, like, if you go to a brand and you want to endorse them, if they don't say yes, it's because someone has looked at what you have to offer, and they say, well, it's too small, or it's not the right market. And also, like, for Dario, it's people in the UK. It's Dario UK people who got in touch with me. It's not Dario US or Dario Europe. Yes. So sometimes you have to go to the right people. So, like, for instance, if anybody in Southeast Asia wants to speak with a company, then maybe you have to find the Southeast Asian representative, because they know the Southeast Asian market. And maybe someone from a company in Southeast Asia will give you a deal, but if you speak to somebody in America, they won't give you a deal because it doesn't affect them. But for companies wanting to, sell their products in Southeast Asia, you're gonna have a lot more luck speaking to the Southeast Asian representatives, because they know and understand the market, and they'll know your value to that market.
Thanks so much for sharing, man. That's such a precious, or what do you call it? It's really um, valuable, knowledgeable things, and I saw that in that's one of the reasons why I love checking out all the Ola England video because he didn't try to hide anything at that where you guys are in, that kind of
Mhm.
level where we've never been. That's so it's like it's so
Yeah.
encouraging, and I love that.
Yeah, Ola has the same mindset as me. Like when you try to enter the music industry, it's so difficult because you don't know anything, and it's like you have to break away this big wall. And then what the way we see it is that we don't want people to go through the same wall that we did. We
Wow,
want
thanks, man.
to keep the wall down and have it open so people can see and understand it because it's not that complicated. It's a business like any other, and it involves contacting people and keeping up business relationships and just very normal stuff. But for some reason people want to try to keep it a big secret. I don't understand it, but that's the reality. And like I said, for all your listeners who want to get in, like work with music brands and stuff like that, like find out who the representatives for these companies in Southeast Asia are. Like, let's say there might be one in Singapore, there might be one in Malaysia. Like, find out who these people are and contact them because they are the right people to speak to if you want to work with their brand. And remember that the key word is you want to work with their brand. You're going to have to do some stuff for them in return for what they give you as well. But yeah, just keep that in mind that you're that's the key word, that you're going to be working with these people.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. What is your day-to-day life like now since you are like fully committed into your music? How is your day-to-day life? Can you share us?
Um, it kind of depends. My days are definitely different because I'm living with my fiance. We're gonna get married later on this year. So some of my
Congratulations.
days, Jesu, uh, yeah, part of my day is just is emailing people and try to organize stuff for the wedding. Um, I do a lot of the cooking, so I cook lunch and I cook dinner. My fiance, she's a very very cook, but she's not patient. Same as you. She has no patience for cooking. So I have all the patience. For me, it's like meditation cooking. I love it. So I do a lot of cooking. So I cook lunch, I cook dinner. In terms of work, it just depends on whether I feel like working. So some days I'll do a full day of work. Some days like today I'll play video games. I don't know. Like I've been playing Skyrim again. It just depends. I have a lot of freedom.
Wow.
And I think like if I ever feel guilty about not working, my fiance keeps telling me that you worked very, very hard for the past 10 years to get yourself in this position. So you should take advantage of, you know, the lifestyle that you get from your work. So I basically have a lot of freedom in my day to go about how I want to do. There are some parts that are more difficult, like I have to do my own taxes in the UK. I have to manage all my business emails, that kind of thing. But I really, really enjoy this lifestyle, and it means that I can work on music whenever I want to.
Wow. I'm so glad to hear that, man. You're in really where you are right now. And yeah, it's so happy to hear that you kind of
Thank you.
getting there, and yeah. And you're
Mhm.
such a supportive fiance you have. I think that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Yeah, loads of blessing. Yeah. I mean,
Massive blessing. Very.
yeah,
I've had.
massive. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my fiance has been really, really supportive and understanding. My family has been very understanding. I mean, my father is a doctor. He wanted me to get a traditional job. And then when I quit my job to become a musician, my parents, they didn't like it at first, but I showed them that
Yeah.
I can make enough money to support myself and be financially independent, and also stay with somebody else, and we can both be fine. So I think they're both happy. Um and yeah, I think it's just about proving that you're willing to take it seriously, and you're going to treat it like your job. and do as much as you can and work as hard as you can.
Right, man. Are you consider yourself kind of Buddhist?
So my parents were both Buddhist. I was raised in the Burmese Theravada. In terms of my religious views, I don't really believe in reincarnation or karma or anything like that. Probably because I moved to the West, but I still quite like Buddhist philosophy. I like quite a lot of it. So I think a lot of that tries to, for instance, like if something is making you angry, I'm thinking like, is it me or is it them? Like I think about all the factors involved, and I try to be, a very good person to all the people around me, regardless of who they are, where they come from, what they believe in. I try to be as best a person I can to everybody. So in some ways, I still have a lot of the teachings with me. And my parents, they don't really mind as long as, I go to the monastery, the Punyijan when they want me to go to the Punyijan kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you practice any of those things that you remember, or you just kind of just go with it?
Not really. I don't really practice, but I think, like I said, the philosophy is in my head. Yeah. So I when I approach things in life, I usually think about it from those perspectives as well.
Have you ever think about kind of like touring, if you get a chance, like touring or doing a show or concert in Myanmar? Have you ever think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how we'd make that work. But I mean, I would never say never. I just don't know how we would make it work. But because like even before the coup, like I was like, how do I get equipment into the country, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, I hope to do it someday, hopefully we can do it one day. And just speaking about the crew, I just hope that everybody who's there is, staying safe. And if you're fighting against the military, just I don't know, just know that my heart goes out to all of you, and I hope you stay safe, and I hope your families are safe, because it's not an easy time for all of us. I think people from Myanmar have been so unfortunate for the longest time. I think recently in the West, people in Myanmar have been getting a bad reputation for things that they didn't do. The people trying to blame the people of Myanmar for something that the military government did in other parts of the country. Like during with the Rohingya crisis, people tried to the Western media tried to blame like Aung San Suu Kyi, and they try to blame the Burmese people for things that we have no control over. Like they realize now that the civilian government did one thing that the military government didn't like, and they just did a coup. It was that fragile. Yeah. They don't understand that the thing with the Rohingya is not something that's unique. The military government has been fighting against Karen rebels, Chin people, like some people in Shan State and more. Like this is just what they've been doing for the past 60, 70 years, and they don't have. They judge our country and its people without understanding. So in a way, this has kind of shown people that we weren't responsible for this. Like we've been under a awful military government for almost all of history, and then I guess for the last coup, people saw what life could have been like without the military government. From about 2010 to 20, there was about 10 years where. And it was shocking to me that when I went to Burma in 2006 for the first time, and nobody had internet, and the power cuts were so often. And I went back in 2019 was the last time I went before the coup, and people had iPhones. There was foreign companies. There was I couldn't believe that this is what happened in 10 years. And I said, in another 10 years, like Burma could be, Myanmar could be quite close to Thailand, and it could be. Like the living standard could be close to Thailand. The living standard could be close to other places in Southeast Asia. And then this coup happened, and then it's just all of that's been wiped out. And it's just frustrating. And for all my family who live there, they want to to make their own life. And unfortunately for all of them, my only wish is that we can see an end to the violence, and that Burmese people can finally be free. And I also know that some of my Burmese followers on social media want me to be more active and talk about Burma.
Yep.
But unfortunately, there's just not anything I can do. I'm just one guy. I tell people when they ask me about the situation, and I tell them everything I said here. But just know that I've not forgotten. My whole family's still in Myanmar and Yangon. And that I wish the best, and I wish that this violence can end, that Burmese people can finally get the freedom that they deserve. And also not just Burmese people, all the minority, all the ethnic groups around Myanmar can get the autonomy. Like, some of them want independence, some of them want regional autonomy, some of them want their own states. I hope that we can find a way to make this all work, because it's a very complicated country with a very complicated and beautiful history, and it deserves more.
Yeah, as long as the military gone, I think the rest we can work it out.
Yeah, we can work that out as long as the military is gone. Yes,
as
exactly.
The military is no longer. But thank you so much for giving that note as well. I think this will make a lot of us very kind of warm and love and care, actually, and people like us who follow you, looking up to you, and knowing that you are with us. This is so really kind of I don't know what to say, but thank you so much for dropping that note.
And I mean,
it's
I think if I never moved away from Myanmar, I think me and my parents and our family, I think we probably would be involved in all the anti-military stuff. Like, my father was an activist before the 88 uprising. Like, it was. I think we all still really care. It's just there's just only so much I can do when I'm over here in the UK.
Yeah.
And I just like I said, I just hope that things can change.
Yeah. And I'm sure every one of us will totally understand, And on note of that, kind of like, I think I'm done with my question. Yeah, thank you so much for always replying my texts, and always responding, and also being on my channel. And thank you so much for Sithu Aye. And any Myanmar word you would like to say to the guests that gonna watch this?
To all my friends from Myanmar, I really, really appreciate all your support and your love and your kindness, and just know that my heart goes out to all of you still in Myanmar, and all of you who have family in Myanmar, that things can change for the better, and I'm with you 100%. Even if I'm not vocal about it online, I'm not that vocal online in general, but I still consider myself Burmese. When I have children, they're going to learn about their Burmese heritage from me and from my parents, and they'll understand their history and their culture and their food and all that stuff. So I'm with you guys 100%, and I can't wait for the day that all of this is over and we're a free, prospering country, and I can take my fiance, because she wants to go to Myanmar, and she can visit, and I can show her all the places that I've been taken to when I visited, and I want to share with her this amazing country with amazing people. And I want more people to discover Burmese culture, Burmese food, hopefully Burmese music as well. Let's make it all, let's just share all of our culture. Like, I think it's about time that people are discovering more about our country. That's it really, really is a gem in Southeast Asia, and I want more people to know about it. But I'm with you guys 100%. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Sithu Aye. See you, and take care of yourself, and And really congratulations again for your upcoming wedding. So
Thank
all the
you.
best with the preparation and the wedding itself. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thanks, you.
Have a good
Thanks
day
all.
ahead, man. Bye.
Bye.